Did you know that the Nazi regime is rumored to have been building a time machine to travel back in time and change the course of the war? That's only one of the many top-secret superweapons in Nazi Germany we're going to explore. Now, we do not claim that any of the theories in this video are facts. When it's an undisputed historical fact, we'll state it as such. Other than that, it's all educated speculation. Let's get into it. ME-262. We'll start with the ME-262, the world's first functional jet-powered fighter aircraft. In 1942, when all fighter planes relied on propeller engines, this jet dominated the sky by reaching speeds and altitudes far beyond propeller capabilities. ME-262 pilots reported over 500 Allied aircrafts shot down. In fact, the ME-262 was so efficient at maneuvering in the sky that it was practically impossible to take down. Allied forces had to catch the aircraft on the ground or during takeoff or landing in order to stand a chance. Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip. Although the Germans lost the war, they emerged with an almost mythical reputation for developing high-tech weapons and immaculate engineering. In fact, the achievements of German scientists and engineers were so astounding that the US sent teams into Germany after the war was over to recover military technology and capture scientists for questioning. This became known as Operation Paperclip. In this operation, more than 1,600 German scientists and engineers were taken from Nazi Germany and employed by the US government with the purpose of giving the US military an edge over the Soviet Union during the Cold War. And in the process of retrieving weapons and interrogating scientists, some astonishing things were found. HO-229. The HO-229. It was designed at the request of Hermann Göring, commander of the Nazi fighter wing. He called for a light bomber design capable of meeting the 3 by 1,000 requirement, meaning it could carry 1,000 kilograms of bombs a distance of 1,000 kilometers at a speed of 1,000 kilometers per hour. The Hortons brothers' design was the only one to get even close to meeting these standards. And the HO-229 was the world's first aircraft without a vertical tail, which significantly reduced its radar area. It was also coated in radiation-absorbing vinyl and charcoal, practically making it the first-of-a-kind stealth bomber. If we look at modern American aircraft, like the B-2 stealth bomber, we'll find many similarities between it and the HO-229. And it's shocking to think that the Nazis had this technology at their disposal such a long time ago. This aircraft might have had the ability to turn the tides of war, but the war was over when only 3 were manufactured. Silverbird. The Silverbird. The first suborbital bomber ever conceived, meaning the aircraft would actually leave the Earth's atmosphere and reach outer space. It incorporated state-of-the-art rocket technology and was intended primarily for the America bomber mission. However, it was considered too complex and expensive to produce, and the design never went beyond mock-up tests. Yet, it inspired the design of many modern spacecrafts, like the X-20 dinosaur of the 1960s. V-weapons. The V-weapons, or vengeance weapons. They were a set of long-range artillery weapons designed for strategic bombing. V-1 was one of the first functional cruise missiles, which means it's a guided missile that travels long distances and hits a targeted area with great precision. Over 10,000 V-1 missiles were launched during World War II. V-2 was a first-of-a-kind guided ballistic missile. It follows a ballistic trajectory to deliver a warhead on a predetermined target. It takes off vertically, given some initial power and a specified angle, Then it continues its upward route according to the law of inertia, before falling on its target in a parabolic trajectory. This technology had never been seen before the Germans implemented it. And finally, the V3 cannon. It was a large caliber gun capable of firing 600 shells per hour, a rate unheard of at the time in guns that fire that bullet size. Together, the V weapons were responsible for the death of more than 18,000 people, mostly civilians. ElectroUboats. The ElectroUboat, which literally translates to the electric boat in German, was the very first submarine designed to operate entirely underwater. All the other submarines at the time could only submerge temporarily to escape detection or dodge an attack. The ElectroUboats could outrun many ships that operated on the surface by moving in the direction of heavy sea, and they loomed undetected in deep waters. Because production began in 1945, the ElectroUboats didn't get a chance to significantly affect the outcome of the war, but the engineering concepts laid the ground for notorious US Navy submarines, like the USS Nautilus, the first nuclear-powered submarine. Now, these technologies might not seem that impressive to you, but that's because you're watching this video in the 21st century. Back in 1945, these weapons seemed straight out of a science fiction movie when they were discovered by the US government. Next, we're going to discuss technologies that seem like they're straight out of a sci-fi movie even now. Sungun. The Sungun. We're all familiar with the concept of a magnifying glass collecting sun's rays onto a point and producing enough heat to burn it. But the Nazis wanted to take this simple concept one step further. They designed a sungun, or a heliobeam, an orbital weapon consisting of a concave mirror mounted on a satellite to concentrate sunlight onto a small area on the Earth's surface. The satellite would disintegrate when it reached the desired orbit 8,200 kilometers above the Earth and act as a skeleton that would hold the metallic reflector in place. And the metallic reflector would be made out of sodium with an area of 9,000 square kilometers. This superweapon was calculated to produce enough focused heat to make an ocean boil or an entire city burn. When questioned by US officers, German scientists claimed that the Sungun could be completed within the next 50 to 100 years, and this was about 80 years ago. So, do you reckon someone in some country implemented this idea, and the Sungun is floating around the planet right now? Die Glocke. And now it's time for the most mind-blowing theory out there about Nazi dark technology. Die Glocke. German for the bell. Die Glocke is described by the Polish journalist Igor Witkowski as a device that has the shape of a bell made of hard and heavy metal, about 4 meters high and 3 meters in diameter. It contained 2 counter-rotating cylinders filled with a substance similar to mercury but violet in color. Some claim that this substance is the incredibly rare and maybe even unearthly Cerium-525, which was stored in a tall and thin thermos and encapsulated in lead. When Die Glocke was activated, Witkowski claims, it had an action radius of about 200 meters. Within this radius of action, crystals formed on animal cell tissue, blood thickened into a jelly-like substance, and plants completely decomposed into a substance similar to fats. Regarding the purpose of Die Glocke, there are 3 speculations. First, some say it was a bold attempt at creating an apocalyptic atomic bomb which aimed to wipe the entire planet in case the Nazis lost the war. Others say it was an experiment on anti-gravity and free energy, that Die Glocke was a breakthrough in propulsion physics and was supposed to open the door for bending gravity to human will. The third and most staggering theory about Die Glocke was that it was intended as a time machine. Now wait, I know this sounds crazy, but hear me out. Einstein's theory of general relativity states that time is not linear, that it doesn't go in one direction, irreversible, and unaffected by its surroundings, but rather that it's a dimension that intertwines with space and can be warped and manipulated just like space, either by objects with extremely high mass, like black holes, or by a very powerful wave force, like gravity or electromagnetic waves. Let's move away from Die Glocke for a minute and go to a very strange incident that occurred on the 28th of October 1943 in the United States. The U.S. Navy was testing out the destroyer escort USS Eldridge in Philadelphia. The warship was intended to produce an electromagnetic field so powerful that it practically becomes invisible to any enemy detection devices. However, something completely unexpected happened. It is rumored that the USS Eldridge teleported a distance of 400 kilometers to New York by creating an electromagnetic field so powerful that it warped time-space itself, and many crew members died before the ship was back in Philadelphia. Now, the US military quickly denied anything like that happened and claimed it was just a routine exercise, but several officers who were on the ship tell a different story. So, if a US Navy ship could warp time and teleport 400 kilometers, could Die Glocke really have had the ability to travel in time? Another strange incident occurred on the night of 9th December 1965, when a large fireball was viewed by thousands of people in 6 different US states and the city of Ontario, Canada. It crashed in the woods at Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, 30 miles northeast of Pittsburgh. The object is said to resemble a bell, and it had engravings that looked exactly like those Die Glocke is described to have. However, in 2005, NASA reported that experts examined fragments from the area and determined it was a Soviet satellite. Yeah, of course they did. Some say that Die Glocke was intended to create an electromagnetic field so strong that it warps time-space and gives Nazi officers the ability to travel into the past and change the outcome of the war. And even though we all know this didn't happen, there are some eerie truths surrounding this topic. For example, after the Nazis lost the war, Heinrich Müller, chief of the Gestapo, the secret state police of Nazi Germany, disappeared without a trace. Hundreds of Nazi officers were captured and tried for war crimes, but not Heinrich Müller. He just disappeared, never to be seen again. This led some to believe that the US government allowed him to escape in exchange for information about Die Glocke. Even though the bell doesn't exist in any official documentation from Operation Paperclip, there's this one footage showing it as it seems to be levitating from the ground without the aid of any jet or propeller engines. Furthermore, modern pictures of the area where Die Glocke experiments would have happened show absolutely no plants within a specific radius. Think about it. This area has been abandoned for over 80 years. Surely plantation would have crept into the site, but there's none at all, which tells us, in the very least, that there were some very powerful radiation experiments held at that place. And finally, Heinrich Himmler, the founder of the SS and one of the most powerful men in Nazi Germany, used Weivelsburg Castle as a holy SS temple where some pseudo-religious ceremonies and top-secret researches were conducted. That is an undisputed fact. Conclusion. But this fact was the spark for many conspiracy theories like the bell and others. The question is, if there were no secret experiments conducted by the Nazis, why would there be a sacred SS temple where they conducted shadowy practices? If Die Glocke never existed, why are there many people going above and beyond trying to disprove its existence? Whether Die Glocke was an apocalyptic atomic bomb, an anti-gravity device, or a time machine, and whether it existed at all, we can never say for sure. We can only speculate. Let us know what you think in the comments section below, and tell us if there are any mysteries you'd like us to explore in our next video.